Welcome to the English.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to the English Waffle, a podcast for learners of English to help you improve your listening skills by listening to real conversations. On this podcast, I talk about different topics with my co-host, Mike. We give tips to learners about how to use grammar, particularly with regard to spoken English. We have fun, we interview guests, and sometimes we play some music. The idea is that regular listening can be beneficial to your English long term. But also, if you want dedicated English lessons to accompany your listening practice, you could consider trying out a one-to-one lesson with English Waffle. To find out more about this and also discover the quizzes and transcripts that accompany this podcast, go to englishwaffle.co.uk/create an account to find out more. This podcast is free for you, our listeners, and that's made possible by donations from you. You can make a donation, however small, by visiting buymeacoffee.com/English Waffle.
English listening.
In this episode, I'm having a conversation with Anton. Anton is one of my students, and when I suggested we recorded an episode for the podcast, he said, okay. As you will hear, he is a good communicator and storyteller. I think you'll find his story particularly interesting if you're thinking of coming to live in the UK or even just coming to visit. We talk about some of his experiences since he arrived with his partner this year. We offer this episode as part of our commitment to explore and share world Englishes. While many of you will need to practice listening to British accents, many more of you may never speak to a British English speaker. As we mentioned on the podcast before, most of the people around the world using English to communicate are not native English speakers. You are using English as a second, third, and sometimes fourth language to communicate with others whose first language is not English. So here's Anton from Siberia in Russia, now based in London. Let's get waffling.
English listening.
Hello, Anton. How's it going?
Hi, Owen. Great, doing great. Just today, I have a very strange experience in my pool. They switched the direction of the swimming, and because of that, one line was like a British road, and the other three lines were like a European road. So it's a great Monday.
Okay, well, and very, very relevant to our chat tonight, given that we're now going to be talking about your experience of coming to live in the UK. That's maybe we can start with that. What's all this about swimming? Do you do swimming training, or do you go to lessons? What's that about?
Yeah, I'm taking lessons just to swim a little bit faster than I do right now, and yeah. Basically, I just enjoy swimming. I started to enjoy swimming not long ago, a couple of months ago, and now I trying to swim better, faster, and further away.
Wow, okay, because it's something I had lessons when I was younger, obviously to learn to swim, but it's not something I've considered doing later in life. Is there a specific reason why you wanted to learn to swim faster, or?
There is no special reason for that. I just enjoy swimming, and there is one reason. I would like to get to this fast lane where there are less people in the pool.
Right.
So for one, and another like a distant dream of myself. I don't know if I'm going to pursue this dream or not. To swim across something bigger than the pool. To try out on swimming, for example, swimming across Bosphore, or even English Channel, but I'm not so sure about that because English Channel is harsh. It's like 30 miles or so in the freezing water.
Actually, I have a friend. He's a Mexican Irish guy, and he lives in Spain, in Madrid. And his sister swam the Channel, and he and his family, they all came over. They met in Dover, and they were there on the boats, accompanying her as she went across the Channel. And she did it. Amazing.
Yeah, that's amazing, because you need to spend 17 hours at least, like from 10 to 17 hours in in freezing water,
Yeah,
swimming,
yeah.
and you can't touch the boat, you can't touch other people, and they feed you from the stick because by the rules you can touch anyone, and you don't have an installation because the rules the first swimmer across the English Channel didn't use any costume.
Okay, that's all
So you
right.
need to
Yeah,
use goose grease for thermal insulation. So yeah,
that's it.
this is a hardcore
The-
swimming.
Wow, that is amazing. Yeah, I mean, for me, the worst thing is not the cold. I don't think. I mean, I'm saying this, but the worst thing is not the distance. Although I don't know if I could swim that far. But the worst thing for me is thinking about what's underneath me in the sea. I've always had this thing because I don't go to the sea very often, and I've always had this thing about, well, what's down there if I can't see what's down there. I don't know. It's kind of a bit of a phobia, I suppose. That
Yeah, I understand that, and especially when I tried my like first little experience of open water swimming. This is just basically me jumping off the marina and swimming for like 15 minutes.
yeah,
And yeah, it is very different from the cozy pool
yeah,
and having everything visible, and you have all the rules there, and you have lanes, and here no lanes,
that's
no
right.
anything, no no vision. So yeah,
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 yeah.
that's right. Yeah.
So yeah, so I think we perhaps need to give a bit of context here, Anton, because the reason we're talking about the UK is because you moved here relatively recently, right? Just tell us about that. How long ago did you move here, and just how's it going?
Yeah, that's right. So we moved here with my wife from the 1st of February, and if describe it with one word, it's amazing. It's so great.
This
But
sorry, Anton,
yeah,
just just interrupt. Sorry, so first of February this year, you moved
yes,
over.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, this year. So it
Ju-
has been like 7 months or so.
Yeah, I mean, you thought it was a good idea to do such a life-changing thing during a pandemic, a global pandemic. You thought that was a good idea?
Probably, yeah, probably it's not a good idea, but the irony is that somehow we made this decision thanks to pandemic,
Right.
because when the whole thing started, we
Yeah.
realized that we have to spend have to spend the summer in our tiny apartment in Moscow, and we decided to rent a country house nearby Moscow. And this summer was a kind of reloading for us. We understood that, hey, yeah, why don't we move further and move to other country? We thought about it for a long time and contemplated for several years, but you know how it goes. Things are uh, uh, you have ongoing things, work, projects, and
Yeah.
stuff, and you
Yeah.
always delaying it. And
Yeah.
we just thought, yeah, maybe it's a good time. But definitely, moving in during the pandemic has its challenges.
I mean,
Uh,
yeah. I
yeah.
mean, because I'm in this kind of a similar situation. 1 year before, well, actually 6 months before the pandemic hit, um, we moved as well. So we moved from Spain to the UK, and we had a little bit of time to kind of get into the swing of things and get used to living in the UK. We didn't do too much because we were focusing mainly on the area we moved to, finding work, getting my son used to going to school, etc., etc. And then the pandemic hit 6 months later, more or less. Um, and so, have you been able to really experience anything? I suppose there are two questions. One
Mhm.
was, what were you expecting from the UK? What were you expecting to find? And then the second question is, what have you been able to do since you came here?
Oh, so my expectations were more or less aligned with what we met
Right.
here. I only need to say that my expectations were actually a little bit lower. I wouldn't
Right.
expect that I would come out to the street every day and see how beautiful things are. So this, sometimes you live your life. There are several months have passed, and you live
Yeah.
your life. You go by, and suddenly, oh, I'm in the UK. it's beautiful here, and it's like sudden shock. And just yesterday, I looked through the photos from the year. I just made a list of travels, of internal travels in the UK.
Yeah.
For some reason, I like lists, uh, and I just realized that it was quite an adventure. And
Yeah.
we've seen, we haven't seen the whole country, of course,
Right.
but yeah, it was a great year. Uh, but we knew where we came to, because we both visited UK before, and uh, as you go, you just start to understand that you have more knowledge and more cultural connections with the culture. So yeah, it was, like they say in these surveys, exceeding expectations. But it's not the word that I would describe our experience. Yeah.
Okay, let's get specific then. So what
Uh-huh.
sort of things have you done? Just give us some examples of the things you've done since you've been here.
Mostly traveling around. So we visited a couple of places in London. I'm afraid that I'm lousy in geography, and I failed
Me
miserably
too.
to know Moscow in like 7 years or so living in Moscow.
Right.
And I think that I might know London better than Moscow by
Wow.
now.
Okay.
At
Okay.
least like I can distinguish West End from East End, and
Yeah.
tell that
Yeah.
where Portobello is not outside of London
Well,
but inside of London.
well,
So yeah.
you're ahead of me. I mean, I think I've been to Portobello, but I'm not really sure where it is now. I don't know.
Yeah, it's West End,
Right.
very close to Hyde Park.
Right.
And so yeah, we traveled to several locations around the UK, mostly seashore, because we both like sea, cold, warm, whatever. If it's sea, it's great. Uh, we went to the place which is called Jurassic Coast, which is
Right.
now the coast which contains several geological epochs, and there are lots of things. But basically, this is a huge hiking shore hiking route,
Yeah.
and you can see beautiful landscapes over the sea there.
Whereabouts is that? And some of the nearest kind
It's
of towns and
south.
stuff.
I think it covers several counties. What was that? Yeah. So
Several counties.
Dorset
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
Dorset is one, and I think Devonshire is another. So it goes across the counties. And yeah, it's to the south,
Right.
west to
Right.
London.
Right.
Uh, Also, what else? We went to Wales. It was a little bit weird itinerary. So we went to South Wales, and then to Oxford, and then to Cambridgeshire. But mostly to the South
Oh,
Wales. And yeah, Wales is different from England, and it's amazing, and it's the best road trip experience that I have ever had.
right. Okay. Wow.
Because roads are so they're narrow,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they're very picturesque,
Yeah.
and you can stop in the villages here and there, and when you have convertible in the summer, it's just amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you notice the signs?
The signs.
Yeah. I don't know if everybody from outside the UK realizes that when you cross over the border into Wales, all of a sudden you've got this other language uh, that
Oh
is
yeah,
everywhere. Yeah.
yeah. That's right. We haven't noticed the sign of moving. I mean, the sign that says now you are in
Right.
Wales.
Right.
But yeah, you start to understand from the different language. I think it's Welsh, right?
It's Welsh. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we've seen that, and it's kind of hard to read when you have zero knowledge of the language.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's quite surprising for some people because the assumption is that well, the UK it's all English, but yeah, no, we've got a few remnants of our Celtic past. But yeah, no, Wales is nice. I haven't managed to take my family down there yet, but we have just booked some tickets to go to a pretty big concert in Wales, in Cardiff, in May or June next year, I think. So we'll be travelling there. And it only
Oh,
takes about.
what's the concert? What is the band?
Have you heard of this guy called Ed Sheeran? Is he?
I have heard of him for sure. I I will fail miserably in naming one song of
Yeah,
by
me
him,
too. W-
but yeah, that's great. And
I,
the city is awesome.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I went there once a long time ago when I was younger, but I don't really remember. I think pretty quickly we went around the city and then got on a ferry to Ireland. So
mhm.
I don't really remember much about it. What would you like about it? What's good about Cardiff?
It's a kind of for me it appeared like a kind of mix of the British or English city with European city, it has several places to visit. I I I can't remember the name of it, but basically there is a stone tomb in the middle of the field, and it is just so great, and there is not no one there. This is a touristic spot, but we when we went there, there were zero people there,
Right, right.
and it is just so great to walk around these ancient stones in the field and seeing grass and sky and birds chirping. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it's cool. But the city itself, yeah, it's a cozy city to walk around, and you can go to Cardiff Castle, which is great as I think most castles in the UK. That's another thing that I
That's
like
true.
here.
Yeah,
You can just you I think you cannot travel for more than 1 hour without seeing anything like castle or something like that, and you can just drive by. Uh, the other day, this is coming back to your question.
yeah,
What were your expectations? What you've met
yeah.
here? Uh, it just strikes me that a long time ago we planned a trip, special trip to the UK, just to visit Stonehenge and then go to Jesus Christ Superstar in Barbican in London.
Right. Okay. Wow. That's
So that
interesting.
there were
Interesting combination.
just two
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
Yeah, kind of kind of interesting
Ancient,
mix. Yeah,
ancient site, druids, and then Jesus Christ. Yeah,
yeah. Well, yeah, they're connected in somehow.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and now we just went somewhere for another road trip, and we just passed by Stonehenge, just casually like that. And you can go to Royal Albert Hall just for a weekend and visit it. It's so great, yeah.
Yeah. I was going to come back to your expectations and then some more of your experiences. And when I think about comparing the UK to anywhere else, I always think of Spain. And I spent 15 years in Spain, and people constantly talked about Spain and the UK, and most of the time they were all very, very grateful they lived in Spain. And those who had come over to the UK were quite happy to go back to Spain after having spent some time in the UK. And the reason there were always the same old complaints about the UK, and they were the food. They said the food was rubbish. They
Okay.
said the weather was rubbish, and the people were rubbish. So they would go to Ireland, they would go to Scotland, and they said the people were lovely, such nice people. And then they would come to England, and basically everywhere was unfriendly and cold. And I spent 15 years getting quite annoyed by all this and being quite defensive. And interestingly, I've come over, and in a sense, I can kind of understand what they mean. Um, and so I'm interested to know your perspective, what it is you thought the country was going to be like, what the people were going to be like, what the food was going to be like, etc., etc. And then what have you discovered?
All right, so let's go one by one. First, the weather. Well, if you come from Spain, you can complain the weather,
You can,
and
right? Yeah, you can. Yeah,
sure,
yeah,
sure, and um, it's November now, and I kind of start to understand these complaints about the weather because winter is not so bright as summer, might be a little bit gray. But when you come from, I was born in Tumen. It's a city in the center of Siberia, so
right.
you can imagine that quite harsh and short summer and quite long and harsh winter,
Yeah,
and 2,000 kilometers from any sea.
Yeah.
So when you compare with that, UK climate is
No,
perfect.
you can't
It's
lose.
just great. If you can't freeze to death at any time of the year,
Yeah,
it's great.
you're doing well. Yeah, well,
Yeah,
what a great place to live.
yeah. Even compared to Moscow, I don't like Moscow winters a lot because
Right.
it's a lot of mud.
Yeah.
It doesn't have snow.
Okay.
Instead of that, it's just around 0 Celsius.
Right.
And November was the most depressing month for me in Moscow because
Right.
it's not Christmas time yet,
Right.
so December is better. But anyway, uh, and also so compared to that, British climate is awesome, and you just enjoy it every day. And another thing that I know that British people complain a lot that weather is changing, and you can't predict the weather,
No.
which is great for me because you have a chance to see the sun to see the sun every day or every other day, and yeah, if you catch this 5 minutes, you will be fine.
Right.
Um,
That's a very positive
and
way of looking at it. Yeah. You get variety, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's right. Even now in November, I think today morning was quite sunny, and
Yeah.
you could go to the garden uh, and enjoy the sun. Yeah. What else? Food. I disagree at all because even if we don't take other cuisines which you can eat in London,
Yeah.
and I think around the UK too, if you just take traditional British food, it's great. I mean,
Right.
what's better than
Right.
Sunday roast or meat
Yeah, I like a
pie
Sunday roast.
or
Yeah.
fish and chips? If you have a great fish with chips, yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah.
And I think gastropubs tradition it came from the UK, so it's not gastro doesn't come from the rubbish food. It comes from great food. So yeah, I like it. And maybe it's also because I come from Russia, and Russian food traditions are more or less alike to, to the British food traditions because
Right.
not as much spices as in, let's say, in Spain or Middle East, and yeah. So I
Actually, maybe
like
maybe that's a misconception. I think in Spain there aren't really many spices in the food. That what they pride themselves on locally sourced fresh produce, and a wide range of meat products. You know, lots of ham,
hmm
and really good seafood. You know, freshly caught seafood, and really the amount of spices they put in is quite limited, and so they and certainly so if we're talking spicy food in terms of hot food, they really don't like hot food. It's you know, you go to an Indian restaurant in Spain, and the hot dishes are really quite mild, you know. But
Oh, really?
for Spanish people, that's enough. No, they're hot enough in terms of spice. So yeah, they're quite their ingredients. There's a lot of olive oil, obviously, and their ingredients are quite, in a sense, quite plain, but it allows the natural taste of the food to come through. And there's lots of great stuff. There is some really nice stuff. And um, what about the people then, Anton? What do you think? Have you been able to kind of meet people during the pandemic? Is it possible?
Well,
Welcome to the English
Well, we had to cut Anton off there because the episode was getting too long. He was about to tell us about his experiences with people in the UK, and if you want to know what he says, you'll have to wait for part 2. I will edit it and publish at some point. If we get a lot of people writing in to say they want to hear it now, I'll try to find time to do it sooner. So please write in and tell us if that's what you'd like. I think you'll agree Anton is a really engaging speaker, and we heard about some of his experiences in the UK, from his mission to cross the English Channel without a boat, to his kind of blasé, kind of indifferent attitude to driving past Stonehenge. Yeah, it's only Stonehenge. It's the kind of thing you do when you've got these things on your doorstep when you've got them really, really close to where you live. And we're just getting into the juicy details of his opinions about British food, weather, and people. So listen out for that. As good as his English language skills are, Anton does, of course, have some issues. He can't always find the words he needs to express his ideas. Yeah, I can relate to him there. And there are one or two moments which sound quite non-native. You may have noticed that he leaves out or omits determiners at times. So these are typically things like articles, or the. And that's typical for Russian speakers. There's interference from his first language there. And there are also some unusual word combinations or collocations. For example, he says, I made a list of internal travels in the UK, which would be better expressed as I made a list of trips, so rather than travels, and around the UK, which he tried to express by the idea of internal travels, which makes sense, is logical, but it's probably not something that a British person would say. I feel confident that Anton has enough generosity of spirit to share both his mistakes and his feedback with you, the listeners. So thank you, Anton. And we're going to use the recording to give Anton more feedback and identify areas for improvement. So we'll be able to share more of that on the website in the episode notes. For now, that's it, and we'll be back soon with the next in the British accent series with Mike. And until then, keep waffling.
Welcome to the English Waffle, where we'll talk about random stuff. We'll take you on a journey where you'll find out soon enough that listening to the waffle is an entertaining way of sharing with you foreigners the things that British people say. Woo! So join us on the waffle and strap yourselves in for 10 whole earthly minutes of English listening.